Bonjour, Kinamagi and Nene Ireland and Dishnikas, and welcome to this production of the My Math Network. Today's episode, Chapter 6, Lesson 5, Multiply Decimals. All right, today's lesson will include the packet of paper starting on page 403 from your previous delivery. If you do not have that packet right available, you should pause the video and go grab it now. If you don't have it at all, or if you've misplaced it, you will need paper in order to be able to write these things down so that you have a tool at the end in order to help you complete the assignment. If you need to pause the video, do such now. All right, welcome back to those who had to pause the video, and thanks for sticking along, those of you that didn't. And we're going to get in today in multiplying decimals. We've been looking at this over the last few days as far as using models. Well, today we leave the models by the wayside and get into the algorithms. The essential question for Chapter 6 is, how is multiplying and dividing decimals similar to multiplying and dividing whole numbers? As we may have mentioned already, we use the same algorithm for multiplying and dividing decimals as we would for multiplying and dividing whole numbers. The only difference is the location of decimal points. Looking first on the Investigate the Math, this part is not in your textbook. What is the relationship between the number of decimal places in the product and the total number of decimal places in the factors? Remember, the factors are the numbers used to do a division or multiplication problem, and the product is the answer. So if there are 4 decimal places in your factors, there must be 4 decimal places in your product. So let's complete this pattern. I'll use my annotation tool. 14 times 2 is 28. 14 times 2 is still 28, but there's 1 decimal place, so I need to put 2.8. 14 times 2 is still 28, but I have 2 decimal places, so I can go back 2 spots. So now I have 0.28. 14 times 2 thousandths. 14 times 2 is still 28, but I have to go back 3 spots. 1, 2. Uh-oh, what do I do? If there is a missing 0, like you're going back 3 spaces and you only have 2, you can annex a 0. So I'd put 0.028 because we're going to the thousandths place, and the thousandths place is 3 zeros, or 3 places from the right of the decimal. So I need to have 3 places here. Here we had 2 places, here we had 1, here we had none. So we got to keep that pattern going. But otherwise, the product of our non-zero digits remained 28. Go ahead and clear that out. See the answers here. All right, so match each product to its factors, then rewrite the product with the decimal point. Well, they just want to make our life fun, don't they? Well, I see that. Here, let's just go to the answers here. 12.4 times 0.19, 124 times 19 is 2356. There are 1, 2, 3 digits, so you go back 1, 2, and 3. So it became 2.356. 5 hundredths times 25 hundredths. 5 times 25 is 125. But there are 2 and 4 decimal places, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we get 125 10,000ths. Here, 326 times 43 is 14,018. There are 1, 2, 3 decimal places. There are 3 here as well. 1, 2, and 3. 14.018, or 14 and 18 thousandths. Let's move now into the book. This is example basic on page 403. just slightly here. Nina is buying peanuts in bulk. The peanuts cost 75 cents or 75 hundredths of a dollar for each pound. She purchased 2.1 pounds of peanuts. How much will Nina pay? Round to the nearest cent. So my first thought is to estimate 0.75. We'll round to 1. 2.1 rounds to 2. So my answer should be about $2. Remember, you should be filling this in as you go. If at any point I'm going too fast for you and you need to pause the video to write something down and then unpause the video, feel free to do such. And let's look at our first 3 steps. I understand on page 403, there are 4 steps shown. On my slide, here's the first 3, and then we'll come back for that. With step 1, multiply as with whole numbers. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 7 is 7. Now remember, when we get to here, because we're completely ignoring these decimal points right now. This 2 doesn't represent a 2, it represents a 20. So I do need to have a 0 here. Then I can start. 2 times 5 is 10. Put a 0, regroup the 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Now I add 5, 7, 5, 1. So 1,575. I count my decimal places. Here's 1, 2, and 3. So I come over, and when you start counting, unless there's 1 shown, you should assume it's on the end. So we went from 1, 2, and 3, and we got 1.575. Make sure that's filled in as we go here, and then we'll move on. Give you another few seconds. If you need more time than that, please pause the video. Otherwise, I'm going to clear the drawings, and I'm going to keep going on. See that there? We need to round to the nearest penny. So it's going to either be $1.57 or $1.58. 5 makes that 7 go up. So our total price is $1.58. So Nina will pay $1.58. And $2 isn't far off from, you guessed it, $1.58. Make sure this is written in here on the bottom of 403 before we move on to the top of the next page, which is 404. A few more seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clear the drawings. Our next problem, DeMarcus is buying a new guitar pick that costs 50 cents. Sales tax is found by multiplying the cost of the guitar pick by 0.06. What is the cost of the sales tax? So step 1, we multiply as with whole numbers, and you can see the estimate is that it's going to actually estimate closer to 0. Start over here. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 5 is 30. Now you say, but Mr. Aaron, what's with this 0 and what's with all of this over here? What you can do is, you know your answer, 6 times 50 is 300. I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. So I'm going to come over 1, 2, 3. 4 goes too far. 3 is as far as I can go. So what do I do? And you'll notice here, a next is 0 to place the decimal point. So I put my 0, and then there's my decimal point. A lot of times we will put a 0 here just so you know that there's no hundreds. And our answer is actually 3 hundredths or 310 thousandths. So go ahead and write that in, and then I'll bring up the bottom of, well, I'll bring up the middle section of 404 in just a moment once you've written in. Yes, you could have gone through and done 0 times all of the 0.50 times 0 in another row and then added. That would have gotten you there as well, but it's not always worth your time. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the drawing. See, we did all right. So our sales tax, because it was 0.03, is 3 cents. And that's pretty close to nothing. Unless, of course, you don't have 3 cents. Then it is something. Make sure this is written in. We'll move on to the guided practice and talk math next. Before you get some. All right. So let's do some math here, my friends. Let's do this one together. You should write it in as we go. 6 times 8 is 48. Your place value charts are useful. And there's 2 decimal points. So go 1 and 2. So your answer is 0.48. 2.4 times 17, or 1.7. You're going to treat as 24 times 17. 7 times 4 is 28. Put a 2. 7 times 2 is what? You're right. 14 plus 2 is 16. This 1 is a 10. And now I have 24 here. Add it together. 8. 10. I regroup the 1. 408. There are 1 and 2 decimal places. So it goes over here. 1 and 2. 4.08. There's 3.8 times 0.9. 9 times 8 is 72. Carry the 7. 9 times 3 is 27. Plus 7 is 34. There are 1, 2 decimal places. 1 and 2. 3.42. Go ahead and write these in. You should have written down the problem as well, just so you can kind of see what we did. A couple more seconds. If you need more time than that, pause the video. See our answers there. All right, describe a multiplication problem in which the product is between 5 thousandths and 1. How about 1 times 0.2? Then your answer is 0.2. There are a lot of possibilities. You guys, my friends, need to practice. Once you practice 4, 5, and 6, pause the video, solve the problem, show your work so you can see where it's at, and then unpause the video to see what you got. You may do such now. Pause the video. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. 6.816, 9.49, 0.364. Remember, you would multiply 96 times 71, which is 6,816. There are 3 decimal places. Get 365 times 26, which is 949, and a 0. So 9,490. They indexed or they truncated the 0. I'd probably leave it for today's work just so you kind of have a view of it. And 52 times 7 is 364. There are 3 decimal places. Let's bounce down to 13. Remember to write these as up and down. They like to scare you with the word algebra. Don't be scared. If you notice, the missing variable is the answer. So this is still 0.81 times 7.3, 5.6 times 3.9, 1.2 times 0.05. I'd like you to solve all 3. Pause the video. I'll see you on the other side. All right, welcome back. Let's see your answers. 5.913, 21.84, and 600ths. Hopefully you're getting these. If you're struggling mightily, remember to reach out to your teacher. Let's pick out a story problem here. How about number 17? Just picking it randomly. Apples cost 98 cents per pound. How much would it cost to purchase 5.5 pounds? All right, go ahead and solve that problem by pausing the video. I'll see you on the other side. I'll come back. Let's see how you did. 5.39 or $5.39. Multiplied 55 times 98, which gave you 500. A big number. You get it round to there. 5,390, 3 decimal points. They truncated to 0. And you're welcome to do that as well. You can't truncate a 0 that's in the middle, but if it's at the end, you're welcome to do that. All right, let's look at the homework for today. My advice is to write problems 4, 5, and 6 like you did on 1, 2, and 3. You should show your work. On this part, same thing with 7, 8, and 9. Here's your story problems. Sometimes there's not enough room on this page. What I would recommend doing is putting it on another sheet of paper because you want to keep it available to you. That way, if we run into a situation where you turn in the assignment and we have some areas of uncertainty, we can look back at what you did. What I recommend is you write it on this paper, and then your options for submission are to fill in the Google form found within the Google Classroom. After you've done all this, just type the answers in, or you may make sure your name's on the line here, on the top here, and on the top of any extra pages you use for figuring your work. And you could email those to me, take pictures and email them to me at mireland@flagshipschool.net, or you may text those pictures to me at 989-750-1640. Just remember to follow the standard algorithm, count your decimal places, and you'll be all right. If you have further questions, please reach out to me during office hours. And remember, the best way to get this material is live and in person when we're making meaning with your staff and with your classmates. These videos are intended for students who missed class for whatever reason or needed further review. Hope you all have a minwagijagad, minwa bamapi.